Good evening, everyone. Want to call the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners meeting this April the 8th, 2024 to order, and welcome those who are in attendance in our audience this evening, as well as those who are joining us by Facebook, TV, and whatever mode and medium you're joining in. So we appreciate you being a part of our meeting. Our first item that we'll take care of this evening is we're going to have our prayer. And Commissioner Vice Chair Mike LaRose is going to lead us in that. And then we'll do our Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Robbie Wilkie will lead us in that.
Let us pray. Our kind Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and your many blessings that you've bestowed on each and every one of us. We're thankful for all the men and women that serve and protect here in Caldwell County. We are so thankful. We are so thankful for our citizens and this county that we live in. Father, bless these gentlemen tonight as we partake in the county's business. Give us wisdom and guidance, for we ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Please face the flag, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Are there any amendments to our agenda this evening?
Yes, sir. Being the month of April, it is the proclamation month. We'd like to add a 5A after the Telecommunicators Week, proclamation for Clean Caldwell. 5B, line workers appreciation for all of our linemen, and they were out in force over the weekend. If you'll go to item 23, we'll add item 23A, the reappointment of Chris Barlow to the Planning Board. And then fortunately, we have a project for economic development to share with the commissioners tonight. This came in this morning. We need to take some information in on for economic development, so an executive session would be added to this agenda with your approval.
All right. Do I hear a motion we adopt the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt this evening's agenda as the county manager has presented.
All right. Any other discussion or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. And so our first item on the agenda is a proclamation, and it is with National Public Health Month. And our Health Director, Ms. Anna Martin, is with us this evening. Welcome, Anna.
Good evening,
Good
everybody. Thank you for letting me do this. It's very important to us. We celebrated last week with Public Health Week and just carrying on to the month. So whereas the goal of National Public Health Month in April 2024 is to recognize the contributions of public health in improving the health of the people in Caldwell County, and whereas from 2019 to 2021, the life expectancy at birth for the population of the United States declined by 2.7 years, which is the biggest two-year decline in life expectancy since 1921 to 1923, and whereas many of the leading causes of death for individuals in the United States result from chronic conditions which are among the most common, costly, and preventable of all health challenges, and whereas 49,449 people died by suicide in 2022, with firearms being used in over 50% of suicides, and whereas an estimated 1.7 children in the U.S. experienced child abuse and neglect in the past year, and whereas significant progress has been made in reducing the infant mortality rate in the U.S. to a historic low of 5.4 infant deaths per 1,000 live births in 2021. And whereas an estimated 60% of maternal deaths in the U.S. are preventable, and whereas there was an estimated increase of nearly 15% drug overdose deaths in 21, and whereas cigarette smoking is a leading cause of preventable disease death in the United States, and whereas e-cigarettes have been the most used tobacco product among youth since 2014. And whereas vaccination is one of the most significant public health achievements in history and has resulted in substantial decreases in the number of cases, hospitalizations, and deaths associated with vaccine-preventable diseases. And whereas public health professionals help communities prevent, prepare, mitigate, and recover from the impact of a full range of health threats, including disease outbreaks, natural disasters such as wildfires, flooding, and severe storms, and other disasters. And whereas public health professionals collaborate with partners outside of the health sector, including city planners, transportation officials, education officials, and private sector businesses, recognizing that other sectors can influence health outcomes. And resolve, the Caldwell County Commissioners supports the goals and ideals of National Public Health Month, recognizes the role of public health in preventing and responding to infectious disease outbreaks, mitigating short-term and long-term impacts of infectious disease outbreaks on the health and wellness of individuals in Caldwell County, addressing social and other determinants of health, including health disparities experienced by minority populations. Now therefore it be proclaimed that the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaim April 2024 as Public Health Month and call upon the people of Caldwell County to observe this month by helping our families, friends, neighbors, coworkers, and leaders to better understand the value of public health and supporting great opportunities to adopt preventative lifestyle habits.
All right, thank you, Anna, for reading that, and as she read it, I'll make a motion that we adopt this proclamation in recognition of the month of April being National Public Health Month. Do I hear any other discussion or comment? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that carries unanimously. Thank you for all that you do, and as a member of the Health Board, I see it a lot, the things that are untold, and so we need to toot our horn on it a little bit more, but we appreciate everything that the Health Department does.
Thank you, I really appreciate it. I want to take this time to also let you guys be aware of a death in our public health family.
Yeah.
One of my nurses passed away this past weekend. She was struggling with cancer. So just keep her in your thoughts and prayers and our public health family.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is a proclamation, Child Abuse Prevention Month.
County Clerk's willing to read that one, sir.
Okay. So we're going to allow Abby to read that.
Whereas, we recognize that children are vital to our county, state, and nation's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets. And whereas, all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster their healthy growth and development. And whereas, Caldwell County received 1,631 reports of child abuse and neglect and investigated reports involving 1,401 children in 2023. And whereas, children who experience abuse and neglect have higher rates of academic failure, chronic long-term health issues, and increased proximity to violence if gone untreated. And whereas, child abuse and neglect is a community responsibility affecting both the current and future quality of life of a community. And whereas, communities that provide parents with the social support, knowledge of parenting and child development, and concrete resources they need to cope with stress and nurture their children ensure all children grow to their full potential. And whereas, effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human services agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Caldwell County does hereby proclaim April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and calls upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support children and families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the community in which we live.
All right, so thank you, Abby, for reading that. Do I hear a motion that we adopt this proclamation?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the proclamation as read by the clerk.
Any other discussion or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries unanimously. Thank you again for that group and all that goes on with them. Next is a proclamation for local library week, and we have our library director with us, Miss Leslie Griffin. So welcome, Leslie.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners. Manager Duncan, and all the folks here and out, all of our library lovers and users. I'm here to hopefully proclaim National Library Week, whereas libraries offer the opportunity for everyone to connect with others, learn new skills, and pursue their passions, no matter where they are on life's journey. Whereas libraries have long served as trusted institutions striving to ensure equitable access to information and services for all members of the community, regardless of any criteria except behavior and without discrimination. Whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of their communities, developing and expanding collections, programs, and services that are as diverse as the populations they serve. Whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. Whereas libraries play a pivotal role in economic development by providing resources and support for job seekers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses, thus contributing to local prosperity and growth. Whereas libraries make choices that are good for the environment and make sense economically, creating thriving communities for a better tomorrow. Whereas libraries are treasured institutions that preserve our collective heritage and knowledge, safeguarding both physical and digital resources for present and future generations. Whereas libraries are an essential public good and fundamental institutions in democratic societies working to improve society, protect the rights to education, literacy, to choose and to read, and promote the free exchange of information and ideas for all. And whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now therefore be it resolved that the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners proclaim National Library Week, April 7th through 13th, 2024. During this week, I encourage all residents to visit their library and celebrate the adventures and opportunities they unlock for us every day. Ready, set, library.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So hearing the proclamation as read, do I hear a motion from our library board member that we adopt this?
I will make a motion that we adopt the resolution as our library director has presented it to us.
All right. And do we have any other discussion or comment? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that carries unanimously. And thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Next is a resolution supporting the reclassification of our telecommunicators, and Ronnie Romes is with us this evening, our new communications director. So welcome.
Thank you, and good evening, board and staff. First one, just a quick background on me. Again, I started as communications director here March 1st, and I'm super excited. Got a fantastic opportunity here and a great staff that I'm working with. The first thing I'm bringing to you is a resolution supporting the reclassification of Caldwell County 911 emergency telecommunicators. Let me be clear that this is not a reclassification of pay, as it is just a job description at this time. Whereas in September of 2021, U.S. Representatives Norma J. Torres and Brian Fitzpatrick announced the 911 Saves Act passed the House as part of the fiscal year 2022 National Defense Authorization Act. The 911 Saves Act is a bipartisan legislation to reclassify 911 telecommunicators from office and administrative support to protective service occupations in the Office of Management and Budget's Stand Occupational Classification Catalog. And whereas 911 telecommunicators are the first line of response during an emergency, and they deserve to be classified in a way that recognizes their work is on par with work of other public servants classified as first responders. And whereas former Senator Richard Burr introduced the reclassification bill in the Senate where it remained, and whereas 911 telecommunicators are working with elected officials to reintroduce this legislation with the next Congress, and local support will assist this effort. And whereas the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners are in support of such a legislative change. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners that the Caldwell County Commissioners are in support of bipartisan legislation to reclassify 911 telecommunicators from office and administrative support to protective service occupations in the Office of Management Budget's Standards Occupational Classification Catalog.
All right, so thank you, Ronnie. And hearing that, What's the pleasure of the board in adopting that this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the reclassification in support of the telecommunicators.
All right, any other comment or discussion?
I
Hearing
just want
none.
to say those folks do a great job, and I appreciate all our telecommunicators. I've been on the other end when calling back, talking to somebody, and it means a lot to have the right people there.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate everything our telecommunicators do.
And this just really opens up an opportunity for them to get more mental health support, other things that they don't really have access to currently. Let me say that Caldwell County is doing it right already, like they've been under the sheriff's office and now emergency services. So you've been in support of it. This is just another step in getting them recognized.
Right.
Great.
Well, they're the first line, right?
Excellent.
People dial 911, that's who they get, so. And with the advent of everything that we've done there and the medical side of it now and starting medical aid over the telephone is very important. And we certainly appreciate everything that our telecommunicators do. So having the motion made, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. And we're going to tie into then another proclamation that is going to announce our Telecommunicators Week.
Absolutely. So again, National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week is April 14th through the 20th of 2024. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from the citizens who telephone the Caldwell County Emergency Services Center. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of Caldwell County Emergency Communication Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year, therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Commissioners of Caldwell County declares the week of April 14th through the 20th, 2024, to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Caldwell County, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe.
All right, so hearing the proclamation read, do I hear a motion that we adopt this proclamation?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we adopt the proclamation as read to us.
All right, any other discussion or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries unanimously. So thank you, Ronnie.
Thank y'all very much for your
Thanks,
time.
Ronnie.
Thank you.
Next is an added item, and that is 5A, and that is a proclamation for Clean Caldwell. So Commissioner Donnie Potter is going to read that for us.
I will. Whereas Caldwell County is committed to maintaining clean and beautiful communities for residents and visitors alike. And whereas litter along our roadsides and waterways not only mars the natural beauty of our landscapes, but it also possesses a threat to the health and safety of our environment, wildlife, and citizens. And whereas Caldwell County recognizes the importance of community action in addressing the issue of litter and promoting environmental stewardship. And whereas roadside cleanup efforts will improve the aesthetic appeal of Caldwell County, increase awareness of the need for cleaner roadsides, and emphasize the importance of not littering. And whereas a clean and healthy environment is essential to the well-being and prosperity of our communities. And whereas the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners urge all citizens of Caldwell County to join together in a cooperated effort to pick up litter along the roadsides and waterways. By working together, we can make a significant impact in cleaning up our communities and protecting our environment. Now, therefore, the Caldwell Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim April 15th through April 19th as the third annual Clean Caldwell Roadside and Waterway Litter Pickup. We encourage all individuals, community groups, and organizations to participate in this important event, and we thank you in advance for your commitment to keeping Caldwell County beautiful and sustainable. Adopted this 8th day, April 24th.
All right, so hearing the proclamation read, do I hear a motion that we approve this proclamation for Clean Caldwell?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve this proclamation.
All right, any other discussion? I will say that there is, this is currently on our website. We're looking for volunteers to sign up who would be willing to pick up the roadside in their neighborhood and/or a roadside area. And all of this information's on our website, applications. Mallory is handling that for us, our environmental specialist, and so she should have been here tonight and tell us all about it. So, but we'll carry the torch. How's that? Because it is a task, a monumental task that we've undertook in our county to try to clean up our roadways. And a lot of folks don't realize everything we're doing there, but we are doing a tremendous amount, and the things that we're picking up. So, and if
Yes, sir.
people wouldn't throw it out, we wouldn't have to pick it up. And I'll just leave it at that.
That's right.
All in favor of adopting this proclamation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. And the next one is our Line Worker Appreciation Day, and I'll read that. Whereas on April the 10th, 2013, a resolution was passed in the United States Senate to recognize April 18th annually as National Line Worker Appreciation Day. And whereas the profession of the electrical line worker is steeped in personal, family, and professional tradition. And whereas line workers are often first responders during storms and other catastrophic events, working to make the scene safe for our public safety officials and to expedite the return of vital electric power to our communities. And whereas these brave men and women work with thousands of volts of electricity, high-top power lines, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, risking and sometimes losing their lives to keep electricity flowing. And whereas line workers are often faced with dangerous conditions far from their families as they work to construct and maintain energy infrastructure throughout the state of North Carolina and the United States. And whereas line workers must use their technical knowledge, physical strength, ingenuity to achieve successes and challenges they face every day. And whereas the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners thanks these skilled and heroic line workers who brave hurricanes, ice storms, snowstorms, floods, and other natural disasters to maintain our community's energy grid. Now therefore be it resolved that the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim Thursday, April the 18th, 2024 as Line Worker Appreciation Day. And it's not wrote on here, but if you see one that day, you should buy their lunch or thank them for being a line worker. All
Amen.
right? And I'll make that motion that we adopt this proclamation. Is there any other discussion or comment?
I would like to say it, I don't know about you, Randy, but I know a lot of people from Caldwell
Yep.
to Kings Creek had a bad weekend, but they were in a real bad shape, and I'm surprised they got the power up as fast as they did.
Yeah.
I was in a meeting today with Blue Ridge and Duke, and it was a miracle that you got power back before
Yeah,
then.
that's right.
Because they had fires, and it was a bad situation, but we appreciate all they do.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
All right. Anybody else? I'll call the question then. All in favor of adopting this proclamation signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries unanimously as well. Next is a resolution of conveyance of surplus property to a nonprofit organization. Our Emergency Services Director, Mr. Dino DiBernardi, is with us this evening.
Thank you, sir. And to echo Commissioner Branch's comments, we also had another significant power outage today in Hudson that Lenore Fire, Lenore PD, Lenore Public Works, and Duke Power worked very quickly as well. So Blue Ridge and Duke have definitely put their work in over the last 36 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
This request came to us from Little River Fire Department somewhat at the beginning of this fiscal year. If we would have had any surplus quick response vehicles, QRVs, to come offline. Periodically, we do this transferring of county-owned property to a nonprofit, in this case, a volunteer fire department. I can read the resolution if you would like, but the resolution is asking for conveyance of public property, property of Caldwell County, a 2002 Chevrolet Tahoe that began its life in public safety with the Sheriff's Department in the Detectives Division, was then transferred to Emergency Services within Restart, and has since hit the threshold for mileage. There is no markings, no emergency warning or lights at all on the vehicle itself. This resolution would transfer that property to Little River Fire Department for $1 with the contingency that if they ever decided to sell that, it could either be sold and the earnings given back to the county or transferred back to the county, and then the county surplus that. Would you like me to read the resolution as well?
No, that's fine, Dino.
So it's just for the 2002 Chevrolet Tahoe to Little River Fire Department for use as a public safety.
All right, anybody have any questions of Dino on this
I make a
conveyance?
motion that we transfer this vehicle to Little River Fire Department.
Yes, sir, I think we probably got our use out of it since
think
it's
we
an
did.
02 model.
And most of these vehicles, we put them on gov deals, we don't get nothing out of them anyway, so.
That's
maybe it'll
right.
help us in the community.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so Commissioner Branch made the motion. Any other discussion or comment? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that carries unanimously. So thank you for that, Dino. And you're up next for the Forest Service truck upfitting. And we have two of our Forest Service personnel in the audience this
We do,
evening.
yes, sir.
And they want to be on TV, so they're going to come up right behind you and stand there. Yes, I do, because.
We want everybody to see
you-
that mustache he's got hanging on there.
Well, and a lot of folks do not realize that we at the county are in partnership with the North Carolina Forest Service and do a lot of funding for the Forest Service, that their full amount in budget does not always just come from the North Carolina tax coffers. So Caldwell County does do a portion of that, and we're very happy to be able to do that because, once again, you are a very important function and role within our county, and we appreciate what the Forest Service does for us. And I've been out there before in turnout gear, trying to fight a fire, and when the Forest Service shows up, and they can move much faster and swifter than I could, and I was always happy to see you guys there, so.
They are most definitely a force multiplier for our fire departments, and this is a way for us to be a force multiplier for them. You are correct. Caldwell County's had a long and storied history of supporting the Forest Service. Our call volume countywide is the highest in Region 3, which actually covers 31 counties in western North Carolina. But what I wanted to highlight, and it's not something that they probably know I'm going to talk about, but, you know, our land mass is 48th in the state. But these gentlemen, along with the cadre of employees that they have and the volunteer and career departments in Caldwell County, are able to keep, of the 201 calls that they had last year, 105 acres, just over 105 acres total in 23, which is only barely 1.05 acres per call. And that is a true testament to their ability and the volunteer firefighters' ability in Caldwell County. And it's a testament to the partnership between our county as well as the state funding for the equipment, the supplies. So in the general budget, periodically it comes up for a vehicle replacement for them. That is a partnership between the county and the state that goes on in all 100 counties. And as a part of that, Caldwell County has always taken on a portion of that burden to share with the state to outfit that vehicle. So the vehicle was actually funded and procured in last year's budget. Now the vehicle has, as we know, it takes a while to get in vehicles, has finally come in, and they are requesting a budget amendment to assist with upfitting the truck itself. In your packet, you will see that there is an outline of some of the equipment that this budget amendment would hope to support. The main portion of which would be the fire suppression skid unit, so that would be the pump, water tank, and then the associated supplies. Some of that will be funded by us, and then the rest being funded by the state. So that's what the budget amendment is for specifically. But if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer it, or both of these gentlemen are much more.
So I got a question for you. Back when I was in the fire department, I don't even know if they still make them or not. Do they still have those brass backpacks that you pump by hand.
They're a bag now. We
It
call
shoots
them-
a squirt of water about as big as that pin right there, and you'll wear yourself out putting out a flame that's as big as your hat. I mean, it's,
The fire on Saturday afternoon that took out the power to half of
Yep.
Caldwell County, we actually utilized one of those bladder bags to go up to the top and
that's
put
when
some
I was
stuff
thinking
out.
about it, because I was like, there ain't no way they're gonna get hoses in there, so I was curious of what they had these days.
We did use
Used
one.
to, it was old heavy, y'all ain't old enough to remember them, but Robbie and Randy probably are.
Used to-
Carried
Old
used to
water
brass,
many a mile.
you'd fill it up with water, it was old brass, container, you know?
Yeah. So, all right.
These Forest Service people like you did.
Yeah, these are Forest Service, totally different. This is North Carolina Forest Service right here.
All right. Well, I didn't know they had forest fires down east.
They do, they do.
At least it's flat.
They were flat.
All right. Do I hear a motion we adopt this budget revision?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we adopt this budget revision for the Forest Services equipment.
Any other discussion or comment?
We appreciate all you guys do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. So
Thank you, Jim.
get it outfitted pretty quick.
We'll do our best.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for coming. Next is item for decision, and that is a rezoning request. And Ms. Shelley Stevens, our planning director, is with us this evening.
And as a reminder, Mr. Chairman, this will be a public hearing too.
This will be a public hearing, okay?
Did you?
No,
You weren't gonna bring
no,
that
I
up?
wouldn't bring it.
Okay, good evening. Hope y'all are doing well. So this is our first rezoning of 2024, and I'm just going to give a brief overview, and then the planning board's recommendation. And if the applicant is here, I'm not sure if he's here, he may speak if he would like as well, but he also doesn't have to. So this rezoning request is for a residential agricultural parcel, and he's requesting general business. So the applicant's name is Derek Dollar, and the property owner is Hog Wild Barbecue LLC, so that's Derek Dollar's Hog Wild Barbecue. And the location of the property, we'll look at it here in a second on a map, is east of Connolly Springs Road and adjacent Connolly Springs Road and south of Dry Ponds Road in southwestern Caldwell County. And it's adjacent Dollar General and across the street from Tri-County Marine. It's a wooded parcel currently, and it's in the watershed protected area of the county. It's just over 5 acres, 5.022 acres, and the surrounding zoning is a mix of general business to the north and northwest, and R20, which is low-density, single-family residential to the west, and then RA20, residential agricultural zoning to the east and south. And this map shows the zoning in that area. The highlighted parcel is the one requesting a rezoning, and above it is general business in red. You'll see the green is residential agricultural zoning, and then the yellow there is the single-family residential zoning. And this is our future land use map that many of you are familiar with from our comprehensive plan, which is created based on public input and updated about every 10 years. And this future land use map just shows where the public would like to see different types of land uses within Caldwell County. And you'll notice this parcel, for those who aren't aware, is located again in the southwestern part of Caldwell County, that southwestern quadrant. And you'll see a red dot that says 7 on it there. And that's where this parcel is located. And if you look at the key, it states that that's a commercial corridor node. And within our comprehensive plan, it says that parcels located within commercial corridor nodes should be rezoned to things like general business or other business districts. So the request is in alignment with our comprehensive plan, which is something we have to look at per state statute. And this is an aerial photo of the site, so you can see what it looks like. Again, it's wooded, and you can see the businesses surrounding. And just a note for those who are unfamiliar with rezoning hearings, the request is for a rezoning only, not for a particular use on the site. So we are just looking tonight at the health, safety, and welfare of the community in terms of the general business district as a whole, and not any particular use that could potentially go there. And keeping this in mind, the planning board and I did look at the rezoning request, the application itself, in conjunction with the comprehensive plan, the watershed ordinance, the zoning ordinance, public health, safety, and welfare, as well as, and I think I already said the zoning ordinance, of course. And they did recommend that this rezoning request be approved, and we haven't gotten any evidence that this would harm health, safety, or welfare. I always talk with DOT. We looked at, I looked at traffic counts, water availability, the expansion of Connolly Springs Road, all kinds of things of that nature. And of course, the surrounding properties were notified per state statute. And then the planning board's recommendation has to come with a consistency statement per GS 160D-605A through B, and then approval of the map amendment or denial of the map amendment, which is the rezoning itself. And so the planning board recommends this consistency statement followed by approval of the rezoning, and you may also create one yourself to deny, and I have a draft denial as well if you need that. Or you may create your own to approve if you don't want to use this one. But this one just states, again, along the guidelines of GS 160D-605, that approval of this request is reasonable and in the public interest because the amendment is consistent with the county's comprehensive plan, which contains a future land use map that aligns with the request by suggesting general business zoning for this area via the commercial corridor node. And there's no evidence that the rezoning would negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood and adjacent properties, and it can promote public health, safety, and welfare by allowing a retailer or other business to provide goods or services to the public. And the motion that would go with this draft statement is motion to approve the rezoning.
All right, so,
I guess no neighbors complained about it or no
We didn't receive any
negative
calls or,
response.
and we also notified before the planning board meeting, which we don't have to by state law, but we do that anyway, and no one attended that meeting, nor have we received any kind of call or any email.
and this sits right there on Connolly Springs Road,
Yeah,
right beside
right
that
beside
Dollar
Dollar
General.
General. Yeah.
Between Dollar General and his daddy's house.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
right, yeah. And right across the street from the, Tri-County.
So,
Just be used for storage buildings?
So that's what he has on the application, but if we rezone it to general business, it could be used for anything allowed within the general business district. That is what he has listed there.
might build a new barbecue over there.
Yeah.
He has mentioned that potentially too.
You'll need to open a public hearing.
Yes, I will. So, with that, we have to have a public hearing to adopt this, so I'll declare the public hearing open. We don't have anyone signed up to speak to that. Is anyone here that would like to speak either in favor or against this?
I'll speak in favor of it because it's just right around the corner of my house.
Yeah.
If he puts a barbecue there, he's that much closer to me.
I hear you. So, hearing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and I'll entertain a motion of adopting this zoning request as has been presented by our planning director and the statement that she read, unless you want to read that statement in your motion, somebody.
I make a motion that we approve this as presented by Shelley.
All right, any other discussion or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. So, thank you again, Shelley.
Thank
for
you.
Thanks,
taking
Shelley.
care of us.
Thank y'all.
And then we have another public hearing scheduled for our ordinance revisions and adoption. And I'm going to turn over to Mr. Duncan, our county manager, just as a preliminary information before we open that public hearing. So,
Yes, sir, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. As you're aware, Caldwell County staff, every department has been on a 2-year progression to update the ordinance changes and highlights in our ordinance book. There's been no substantial updating with state law other than the UDO since 2014. There have been a lot of court cases that have occurred since then, both U.S. and state, as well as ordinance that are updated by general statute through the General Assembly from time to time. So this has been a huge labor. We've had outside legal counsel assist us with this through Teague Campbell. There are outside counsel that we hired to help represent the health department during COVID, and so they had already done this for other counties. We're not the only one. And so it's been a significant project, hundreds of thousands of pages that have been through, many, many man hours and staff time, and special thanks to Teague Campbell, Deborah Bechtel, the retired county attorney from Catawba County, and a special thanks to Miss Abigail Rich, our county clerk. She has worked tirelessly on this. This is the first tranche of ordinances that will happen, and the recommendation is that you have a public hearing with these, and you read them twice, this month and next month, and we'll start proceeding. In the ordinances, we are adding alcoholic beverages on county property, a prohibition on that. Begging and soliciting prohibited. We had a beggars ordinance that was countywide. We cannot do that. You can only restrict it to the property that the county does control. We added minimum housing and non-residential building standards, which is a request that came from the citizens a few months ago, dealing with homelessness and substandard housing throughout the county. And then we have a state of emergency statute that we follow, but we also have to have our own state of emergency ordinance that was updated. We revised the current ordinances, the animal care and enforcement ordinance, which is pretty new. And the reason we're revising these is that you have to look at your book of ordinances. They're written over time. Different authors, different legislation, over 100+ years. So language is different in each of those. So this is mostly an attempt to have a common language that's in line with current law and especially the state statutes. So if you read open burning in one part of the statute or one part of your ordinances, it's the same in the others. So having unified definitions. Building code and inspections, most of that is to put in code what we're already doing in practice now. Conceal weapons on county property, emergency management statute, also bringing it in line with what we do in practice versus what was written down. EMS, fire life safety, noise regulations, racetracks and drag strips, that's an important one that we deal with. You had 3 different documents that we went by, and this unifies them all into one. Nothing changed, but it's all in one place now, and it's a shared definition. Public water systems, the way we operate versus what was in the code. Septic collection, transportation, and disposal. And here's what we removed. Many of you may remember, we no longer have the authority to regulate cable television franchises. That was repealed from the states and counties, or excuse me, the cities and counties, I believe in 2006 or 7 under the statutes, and now is done through the Secretary of State's office. Alarm systems, that's all regulated already through fire. Massage businesses, that was a whole issue about, were they inspected, were they healthy? That's a public health issue that we already have. Hazardous waste management, that was an ordinance that was on the books. And if you read the first line of the ordinance, it says, this is a general statute, I forget it, but so-and-so. And if you open that general statute, it says county shall not regulate. So, but yet here we are regulating them. So that is actually a DEQ permit that has to go through. Cemeteries, we basically just cut and pasted the cemeteries ordinance or statute, and basically it only relies to private cemeteries. If you bury someone on your property, how you remove them and put them and inter them into a public or a privately owned cemetery. That's all the process was. It's superfluous. It's already spelled out in statute. The only thing that y'all have to determine is it the county commissioners that review that permit application, or is it the health director? And we've already chosen that the health director oversees that. Parking regulations, that was for some county property that we own that no longer applies. Phase 2 stormwater, we use the state statute. We go by the model ordinance. And public safety oversaw quite a few things, and we've narrowed that down. Here's a highlight of the different things that were done. And most of this in building inspection was streamlining the ordinance and making it a little less cumbersome. And the fees were in your ordinances throughout the statutes. And so no one does that today. You have a schedule of fees that you adopt every year with your budget. And so it changed all the language with that. So as fees change, or as required inspections change, or as law changes, you don't have to go back and change your ordinance every time. It's a very convenient way to do it. And people are still catching this, and many times, and there can be conflict in ordinances. So just better off to say, see schedule of fees. It's adopted with the budget every year. Emergency management, you had some definition changes here. We cleaned up quite a bit of the emergency management section, but you used to have a board of citizens that oversaw emergency management. This goes back to the pre-E911 days, and no one operates that way anymore, but it was still in our code. So we removed that, and shows how we operate today, where it's an appointed position through emergency services and the county manager. Emergency medical services, same thing, just updating the definitions. And the franchise agreement, and we now have an ambulance franchise for transport. This puts us in line with what we actually practice in state law. Fire and life safety, nothing to say there. Noise regulations was part of the nuisance ordinance. We've made it its own ordinance, and we've clarified it and cleaned up the definitions. So it's a nuisance abatement case, but you still have, where you have documentation, there's case, and then you go get a court order, and we do it just like we do any other code enforcement issue. So it's similar policy as to how we're already practicing everything else, just putting it in code the way we do business today. Public water systems, as you know, we have over 9,000 customers. Or excuse me, I should say 9,000 meters. That's probably about 20,000 customers plus. So it simplified all of that and puts it into the DEQ code that we're already using for Department of Environmental Quality. Septic haulers, same thing. This is probably the biggest thing is through all the ordinances, having common language. And that's been a huge undertaking. So you have a common author, a common definition that's easy to interpret. And that's essentially it. There'll be 3 motions. 1 is to make these in the form of a single motion. 2, to accept these new ordinances. And 3, to repeal the old ordinances. And that's it. So that's very quick, but it's been almost 2 years worth of work so far. We probably have another 3 or 4 months to go on the rest of them, but we're getting there.
All right. So with that, I will declare the public hearing open, and we don't have anyone signed up for this evening to speak to that. And I don't think anybody's here that wants to speak to all this. But if you are, tell me. Seeing none, I will declare the public hearing closed and entertain the first motion, which would be to adopt all of these in the reading of one motion. So do I hear a motion that we first would adopt all these in the reading of one motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt these changes in the reading of one motion.
All right, hearing that, any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, may I add too that you'll do this again, just for the citizens' awareness, you'll repeat this process next month. So there's 2
Right.
readings. And up until such time, you can make changes, adjustments if you see fit. Also, just to be aware that ordinances are not ordinances when they're passed. If Congress or the General Assembly passes an ordinance and they send it over to the President or the Governor and they sign it, it's still not an ordinance. It's still not law. It is not law until it is codified, whether it be the Code of Federal Regulations at the federal level, whether it be the general statutes in North Carolina or your book of ordinance, Code of Ordinances here in the county. So it's a process, and you're starting that process. So through the codification, there may be numbers that change. There may be syntax that has to change to make it fit. No substance will change. So when you approve these, we'll ask that you add that statement into the ordinances that staff has the authority to make those slight tweaks and adjustments without changing the intent or the law.
All right. So we have a motion to adopt all of these in one motion that will be made. So I'll call the question. All in favor of that, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. And then the second part of this, we have to have a motion on,
Approval of the ordinances as a group. And then your third motion would be to repeal those existing ordinances.
so we need to read this motion at this time,
You may.
the approval of all of these motions. So who would like to read this motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion that we adopt the chapters alcohol beverages on county property, begging and solicitation prohibited, minimum housing and non-residential buildings, state of emergency, animal care and enforcement, building code inspections, concealed weapons on county property, emergency management, emergency medical services, fire and life safety, noise regulations, racetracks and drag strips, public water systems and septic collection, transportation and disposal, and that we repeal any other ordinances under alcohol beverage on county property, begging and soliciting prohibited, minimum housing and non-residential buildings, state of emergency, animal care and enforcement, building code inspections, concealed weapons on county property, emergency management, emergency medical services, fire and life safety, noise regulations, racetrack and drag strips, public water systems and septic collection, transportation and disposal, and the county manager has the authority to make any typographical error changes and non-substantial corrections and any numbering, renumbering, or formatting as a result of the codification.
All right, so hearing that motion, any other comment or discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. And then the third part of all this is a motion to repeal.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make that motion to repeal the Cable Television System Ordinance, Alarm Systems Ordinance, Massage Businesses Ordinance, Hazardous Waste Management Ordinance, Cemeteries Ordinance, Health and Sanitation Ordinance, Parking Regulations, Phase 2 Stormwater, and Public Safety Ordinances.
All right, any other discussion or comment after hearing the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries unanimously as well. So thank you for all that work. We're going to do it all again next month.
Yes, sir.
But if I would say if any of our citizens or public has a thought on this, please come let us know. All right. And thank you again, Abby, for all your hard work on that. And this is just a portion of, we're going through total ordinance revamping. We've got some more to do.
Yes, sir. You'll
And,
have just as much again.
Yeah, so, but we're working toward that and trying to get everything honed in and narrowed down like it should be. Streamlined is the word I'm looking for, so, but we appreciate all your efforts in that.
Yes, you're welcome. Mr. Chairman, I would also like to thank all of the staff members from all the various departments. They've been instrumental in this process and very easy to work with.
Yeah,
Awesome.
very well. Thank you. And that brings us to our consent agenda this evening. And so our county manager, Mr. Donald Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We have more than a few items on the agenda for tonight for consent. I will try to walk through these, and if you have any questions, please interrupt, and I'll try to answer them. Number 10, item for discussion, approval of application to submit for the Bureau of Justice Adult Court Grant. This is what we would also call as Recovery Court. This is one of the elements that we'd like to add to our Restart program. It would also be in conjunction with Burke County of having a first-class recovery court program. This is a grant for $900,000 with a local match of $300,000. We can use opioid funds to do that if we receive it. And this would help us establish staff that would be their total focus, is getting folks through the court system. And I'd like to thank Judge Irvin, our Superior Court judge, and Judge Keener, our other Superior Court judge. They have been actively working on this and kind of ringing my phone off, making this happen. So they're really pushing it. This will probably be, I'm not bragging, but maybe one of the fastest ones of these that's done in the state, because they are adamant that this is something we need. Item 11 goes along with that. This will be the establishment of a grant through SAMHSA. I don't know what that stands for the outpatient treatment program for mental illness. And once you go through recovery court, then you have to have long-term mental health treatment, and this would help us establish that. I also want to thank our partners with ICGH, Integrated Care Greater Hickory, working with Doug DuPel and the Sheriff's Office for helping write both of these grants. They've done them with about 6 weeks' notice. It's absolutely fantastic, the work that they've put together with those two grant writers.
Second grant, opioid fund.
We can use match for that, for opioid funded too. This is actually federal dollars that would come to us that's outside of that would pay. It's, I believe that was 100%.
So it's a different pot of money.
It is a different pot of money, yes. It is still DOJ, but I'm not sure
Yeah.
on SAMHSA. That's a new one for me, so I'm learning that one. Along with that, we have approval for medically assisted treatment inside the local sheriff's office in the jail detention facility. And this MAT treatment would allow us to start treating people while they're there, so we can help prevent them from repeat offending, from coming back. The whole idea is to get them medical treatment while they're there that's focused on recovery, so they're not going back out and committing these same crimes and coming right back and taking up space in our jails. This will be a future requirement, by the way, in DOJ administrative law coming down, I believe. Sheriff's Office, I believe it's 27, it's mandatory. So this gets us a jump on that, and will be quite helpful if we get that. Special thanks to Officer DuPel again. This is another one that Doug wrote, approval of grant submission for Operation Underground Railroad. This is to have electronic software that we share with FBI and SBI and other agencies to help track human trafficking and child abuse and child trafficking. Some of the things we don't like to talk about, but it's a $25,000 grant for electronic equipment and software. The next one, item 14, is approval for submission to North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources to separate, now you need to learn this term, start getting used to it, the bicentennial. This is the 250th anniversary that is a grant application for help us to celebrate America's 250th anniversary. Counties and municipalities are encouraged to apply. Budget revisions for the town of Gainwell sewer funds. This is a pass-through in our budget where we take in revenue through our water fund based on sewer, our water billing for sewer usage, and then we turn around and remit that back to Gainwell. As they're growing, that budget number's going up, so that's a good thing for all of us. Health Department, Food and Lodging, I'm sorry, Health Department Public, I'm way off, sorry. Item 16, replacement of wreck patrol vehicle. This is a vehicle that was crashed last year. $11,500 is all the value we got out of it for insurance. This will go toward the purchase of a police interceptor Ford Explorer SUV. This is the hybrids that we run. We have found one on a lot that has not been purchased. They're holding that vehicle for us, so that's the reason for the timing on that. And special thanks to Captain Rich for locating that. Budget revisions to Health Department Public Health Services grant funding. This is $50,000 to continue additional funding for vaccines and treatment in the health department. Item 18, Health Department Food and Lodging Grant. This is an interesting one. It's only $7,600, but it's an incentive grant. So it's the higher percentage of inspections you get on restaurants and lodging, the more of this money you get. So and then you get to spend it on equipment and staff for your environmental health. So it's a pretty neat idea. They haven't done this since, I think, before COVID. This is to encourage higher percentages of health inspections. So the goal is to get to 100% a year for all of our needs. And of course, we all appreciate that because we like to go in there and see that class rating on the wall of the restaurant. Caldwell County Schools lottery funding from the state. This is passed through our budget. It comes to the counties and we remit to the school board in the amount of $99,000. The legal contract for our county attorney, Wilson, Lackey, Rohr, and Hall, that would start here in April and carry us through to June 30th next year and would renew with budget every year. Also, the following item also is legal fees for that contract, as well as the increased legal costs we've had for rewriting these codes and ordinances in the amount of $49,000. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of sinus here, so my voice is going. Budget revisions for DSS donated funds. I was not aware, but we have quite a bit of donated funds to DSS for foster families, people that are destitute, things like that, and there's very little conditions on it. So what we want to do is create an account that shows those foster funds being tracked. It's getting up to be a big number now. Thankfully, we have people that are making those donations. And just like we do with animal care, we have an in and out account for that, but we need to track it because of the numbers. It's getting to be an amount that would be material to an audit. Used to, it was just a very, very low dollar threshold, and you would get some money every once in a while, but now we're getting consistent funding there.
One of the things we had talked about a while back was trying to create a 501c3 because there's a lot of people that I think would donate to that DSS if it was a 501c3. So something we can talk about later, but.
It's an interesting thought. Item 23 and 23A, I'll take those together. The reappointment of our planning board members, Dr. Jeff Church and Chris Barlow. Chris has just came in today, so that's the reason for the addition to the agenda. Item for decision, appointment of Suzanne Keimer to the Council on Aging. And then Amity Creek, which is a wedding venue, is hosting a fireworks display for a wedding, so I'm glad they can do that. That's wonderful. I'm gonna try to swing by that wedding. Town of Sawmills fireworks application for May the 11th. And then we also have a letter of support for Via Health. Our LME MCO covers 1/3 of the state now, 33 counties, I believe. And they're asking to be a its own vendor for mental health and behavioral services for children and those in need, and we know that's a growing avenue. Our state has done we as a society have done a poor job on mental health and mental health treatment, and so VIA is asking to be able to be a vendor to the state in order to provide those type of services amongst many, and it would include, and it's in the letter there, but not only mental health and behavioral health, but also child abuse treatment, as well as addiction and recovery. So there's a whole myriad of things that they'd like to be able to do there. Mr. Potter's on that executive committee now. Do you have any comments or questions you want to add?
Yeah, so the state's narrowed it down to 4 organizations across the whole state. And what's happened is that the state last year has decided to make it a one organization that handles all the stuff he just talked about regarding children across the whole state. So one organization will be selected by the state. And this letter is our support that VIA be that person. We're actually partnering with partners in this venture. So, VIA's got a lot of experience in this, and they do a really good job in this arena. And all the other vendors some of them don't have the experience, and some of them are outside the state. They have the experience, but they're out-of-state agencies. So VIA and partners are the only one that will be an in-state candidate for this position, I guess.
All right.
And then approval of the minutes from March 11th. And I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
All right, anybody have any questions or comments there on our consent agenda? I will mention that 250th celebration of our nation. Somebody reached out to me from the History Museum that was pretty interested in helping be a part of
Okay.
organizing something locally, and so we need to include those folks. I know you said something about municipalities, but if we happen to get that grant, we might want to
Yes, sir.
involve those folks too, because they had a vested interest in it as well. And so we'll take care of that. Anything else?
May I add upcoming events of EDC annual meeting? It's coming up Wednesday. If you RSVP'd, Ms. Ashley, this is going to be a great event. They're going to change up how we do it in the award ceremony and recognize Industry of the Year. So if you haven't signed up for that, please do. And then May the 3rd, I'm working with the superintendent to establish a youth town hall, which would be a meeting from 9 to 11 a.m. So pencil that in. This would be an event to take some of our students here in the county, and we're not talking about the best and brightest. We're talking about kids that are articulate, that are engaged, that want to be here in the community and find out what they need. And it would be an opportunity for our elected officials to hear directly from those young men and women about what they think of the community and what they'd like to see the future of the community look like. And that's all I have.
I'll give you a little feedback on how that came about. I was invited to speak to a civics class out at the early college, and I think it's called CASA now, several weeks ago. And during those classes, there was a lot of great questions asked, and there was questions asked about how are our elected officials communicating with our youth in the community, and how are we able to gain and find out about their interest. And there was just a lot of questions around that. So after the meeting, I talked with the teachers, the civics class teachers, and asked them what they would like to see. And this is kind of an idea that came up from that conversation, was having a town hall with all the elected officials, so that the youth in this community could reach out and give some feedback to these elected officials. Because at the end of the day, I'm 60 years old. It's hard for me to understand what a 13 or 14, 15-year-old kid might want, and what he might want to see in our community. So, as a county commissioner in our county, I think it's difficult sometimes to give them a voice, and I think they're asking for a voice, and they want us to hear what they got to say. So this is kind of how this came about. So I'm hoping you guys can attend and will attend.
All right. Anybody else? We'll Do I hear a motion that we approve this evening's consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept this evening's consent agenda as the county manager has presented.
Any other discussion or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. And that leads us to a closed session. And I'll make a motion to enter into this closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A4 to discuss an economic development incentive with the county attorney, county manager, deputy county manager, county clerk, chief financial officer, economic development staff, and any other personnel that may need to attend. Any other comment or discussion on that one? All in favor of entering into a closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is unanimous. And I don't think we expect any decisions out of that for our news media. So we appreciate you being here this evening and appreciate the opportunity to serve, and hope you have a great evening.
I'll knock that out quick.
Yeah.